Hello and welcome to Pure Fishing TV. My name is Adam Royter, and for the next few moments we're going to be talking about the 3-inch Gulp fry. Now, the fry was born in America and it was originally designed for fishing for steelhead, which is an ocean-going rainbow trout, if you like, and those guys, their diet's probably 95% bait fish, so that's where this guy comes in. It's called a fry because it's meant to imitate small fish fry. And the thing I really like about the fry is that it doesn't imitate one particular bait fish, it imitates them all, and that to me is a winner, because then you can use it for a whole host of different fish species. You're not locked into just fishing for steelhead rainbows. This thing will catch anything from a trout to a brim to a tuna, because the majority of aggressive predatory fish, they eat stuff that's between 2 and 3 inches long, so that's right up this guy's alley. And because it's that sort of tubular type shape, you can cut it up. So you can knock this guy down to 2.5 inches or even 2 inches, and it doesn't make a cracker of a difference. If that's the profile you need, the Gulp fry is the bait for you. Let me show you how it works. All right, now it's time to get one out of the bag and have a look. Now, that's pretty much what you're looking at there. It's a tubular bait, but it does taper from the head to the tail. There's a definite taper, and right at the very end, and this is the thing I really like about this particular soft bait, is the tail section, it flattens out into almost like a paddle, like a beaver paddle tail, and that has a defining difference to, say, a split tail that you'd find on a minnow. And what this little tail does that the split tail doesn't do is this one catches water and it helps it to wag or swim a little bit. So when you're violently shaking the rod tip and dragging it through the water, this little tail catches a lot of that water and it will flap and swim. That's one of the key features with the fry, is this particular tail. And as I say, the rest of it is pretty much just tubular. So if you wanted to shorten it up, you can just pretty much just chop off, a centimetre or even 2 centimetres. You can chop this guy right back. You can pretty much cut the whole thing in half if you must. And it just gets sort of slimmer and skinnier in profile down to the back. But, I think because of its simplicity in its shape, that's what really makes this bait into a classic all-rounder, in the fact that it'll catch almost anything, whether it's freshwater, estuary, or straight up salt. The fry is definitely on the money to catch everything. If I had to die with one soft plastic, it would definitely be this guy. Desert island scenario, bag of gulp washes up on shore, I'd want it to be the fry for sure. And it comes in such a spectacular range of colours, that just tells you that you can catch everything on it. So yeah, you're literally mad if you don't have fries in your kit somewhere. You've got to have them. And if you've never fished them before, get yourself in a situation where fish are feeding on bait fish, and it can be any situation where they're feeding on bait fish. The fry will undo that. This guy here will unlock that situation, and you'll start catching them. No worries at all. Let's put it on the rigging table, and we'll go through the motions of how best to rig the fry. All right, so the 3-inch fry we've got here. You can see that tail variation that I was talking about, how flat and sort of paddle-like it is at the back there. Now, I suppose one of the best ways to rig this guy is just on a jig head. Quite simply, 90% of people would fish this guy on just a standard jig head. Obviously, hook size, is determined by how much of this guy you're going to fish. What is this? This is a size 4. This is about as small as you'd like to go, and you could go literally up to a size 2. Now, probably the best way to rig this guy is, there's a couple of different ways you can rig him. If you're going to be retrieving it or working it quite aggressively in the water, you want to rig it so that the hook is riding up on the side, so that the paddle is going to be flat like that, so that it's waving in the water like this. So we'll rig the first one like that. So we just stick this guy straight down there. You can shallow rig these guys as well if you want. slide him up, and that's pretty much how we'd rig the Gulp fry on a standard jig head with the paddle out to the side. That way, when you're working it through the water like this, the tail's going to catch that water and make it swim a little bit more aggressively as you're jerking it along. Another good way to rig them is on these little torpedo heads. So we've got a standard and a fat torpedo. Now these guys rig a little bit differently, and it's like an anti-pantsing point at the front here, which is this little guy here. So what we need to do is insert that a little bit, not straight down the face, but a little bit down the bait itself. So just stab that in there and work it down to about there, pop him out, and then feed that whole body section in, and then come up. You can see the point is just out the front there. Just come up and forward and tuck it back in. And there we have a rigged torpedo style. And you can see now that hook point, the toe point is actually coming out of the top. So this is a great way to get a lot of action darting sideways, left and right, because the toe point is behind. So this acts like a little bit of a bib, and this will make it swing left and swing right on a retrieve. So that's a really handy way of not only using an ultra lightweight, like I think this guy is 1/50th of an ounce. This little guy here is probably 1/12th or 1/16th of an ounce. But it's all concealed. All the lead is now inside that soft bait, which also adds to the skippability of the fry, because it's got no protruding lead to dig into the water and make it bite in and dip under. If you use a torpedo, this is by far the best way to get your baits to skip. Okay, so a couple of different sizes of the torpedo head there, and then obviously you can run them weedless, which is a fantastic way of running them. If you're going to be fishing in a snag structure area, obviously you just want to line it up, make sure now it's got Berkley written across the back, so you can use that as a guide to where your hook point's got to come out. And looking at this, we need to come out behind the Y on Berkley, so we'll just snick that through there like that, slide it up and around the Z bend. We've done this before if you've watched a few of these videos, and then just poke it out through the back here, right about there should do it. Yep, like that. And now that is weedless, and then we can just push a little bit of plastic up over that point, and now that is truly 100% weedless. We can run that right through any amount of sticks or foliage on the bank, and it's not going to get caught up. And then of course when the fish comes and grabs a hold of it, it busts through and he gets a gob full of hook. So that's how we'd run those guys. So there's 3 different variations of how to rig a fry. They're all sort of, a little bit different, a little bit unique. Now, as I was saying before, you can catch quite big fish on the 3-inch fry, simply because it does look like a lot of different types of bait fishes. And the way to get it out there is to just put it on a big jig head. Like this 1/4 ounce jig head will cast quite away on some 10-pound fire line, and geez, I don't think there's anything you can't catch on good old 10-pound fire line. So it's just simple jig head rigging style. Slide it up onto a jig head and toss that out, and high speed retrieve. This guy I think is probably your best bet to get a good result. And if you high speed retrieve that in front of a 10 kilo or 15 kilo long-tailed tuna, he's going to snaffle that no problems at all. 3 kilo salmon, 2 kilo tailor, all those types of big speedsters that love eating small bait fish. I think that's a cracker for those guys as well. So you've got everything from brim, bass, estuary, perch, trout, right through to tuna and all sorts of other big, weird and wonderful stuff. So give the fry a go. Make sure you've got some in your box. If you're fishing estuaries or freshwater, this colour here, the pumpkin seeds, by far the most popular and just catches fish. And then obviously there's a host of colours after that you can choose for all the different scenarios you might get yourself into. But check out the Gulp fry, an absolute classic. Now, one other thing that Gulp is exceptionally good at is skipping along the water. which makes casting under structures like this, or under small gaps of maybe a pontoon, or even between the hulls of a catamaran or something like that. Gulp allows you to skip cast way into the back, into the dark, into the shade, obviously where those fish are going to be hiding. And it's a matter of the gulp being water-based and being able to skip along the surface of the water instead of being a material that wants to grab hold of the water. Gulp has a slimy sort of feel to it, so it enables it to skip beautifully, much like this. You can see how erratic you can get this fry to be with, simply the rod tip and a little bit of reel turning. You can really make this particular soft bait really come alive, and that's what I really do like about it. You can do so much with it, so many different actions. The lift and jig retrieve there, is a classic all-rounder. It's one that's used, throughout the soft plastic world. And here we go, a little bit of slow-mo, just watching that little flattened paddle tail move so beautifully through the water. For something which is so simple in design, it really does have a beautiful lifelike action. And personally, I think this particular style of baitfish profile is definitely the go, rather than something like a T-tail or a curl tail or grub tail. Those tails can sometimes push out too much movement, and in that situation the fish will be a little bit sus on it and will follow and sort of get right up behind it, but they won't actually go that extra 10 yards and bite it. That's where these straight stick bait style soft baits really do move and shake in the world of imitating bait fish. They really do a fantastic job. And just looking at this slow-mo here, watching it just work that little bit of tail action there, that's with the torpedo jig head, and again another little bit of torpedo movement there, and you can see how that tiny little bit of weight just allows it to kick left and right, and of course the weedless. Just a brilliant system.